How's it going, Great Nation? Chris Thomas here. Hope you're having a great day kind of day. And on this installment of Great Nation, I'm talking with Paul Marlow, founder of Never Alone. To learn more about the mental health advocacy of Never Alone, go to weareneveralone.co. Paul, how are you doing?
Chris, I'm doing fine, thank you. Nice intro. I've tried in the past to start a show and do intros, and I always mumble my words together. So I respect the work you just did right there. It's not an easy thing to do over and over.
Thank you very much. Flattery will get you nowhere, my friend. I'm teasing. So in fall 2017, you experienced a breakup that was mentally challenging, and there were feelings of depression, anxiety, and PTSD. What was it about the nature of this relationship that you think elicited such a strong response? Or do you believe those feelings were always there and you were not necessarily conscious of them in the moment?
Well done on that question. Um, it's an easy answer. You're right on both areas. The first one was my ex has BPD, borderline personality disorder. So that the struggles that she was going through from our breakup were the reason I was dealing with the struggles of my own, due to the factors and stuff that happens in her head and everything that she has to deal with, unfortunately, throughout her life. I was not the proper way. I was feeling the brunt of that outburst that she was putting out into the world. And that was about 10 months worth of things happening in my life that I never thought would happen. Um, Luckily, we both made it out of it alive. But that is 100% the reason why. However, with your second part of that question, I definitely, a lot of the reasons why I didn't handle it well and I didn't know how to handle it, and I had a hard time talking to people, was through stuff that happened in my life when I was in grade 4 and I was 10 years old and I was asked out my first date and things went wrong. Fear of failure, fear of opening up to people, and fear of being judged. A lot of stuff in my past life came up at that point, and they failed me on how to deal with things. But it also showed me that I needed to work on my life and bettering myself. And that's really how Never Alone got started, by me starting to work on myself and then showing others how they can do it also.
Now, you excelled as an athlete. Can you speak to your experiences as an athlete and whether there were services provided to help get through the pressures of competing at a high level? And what might be done to remove the stigma of athletes seeking counseling and advice while they are a member of teams?
Yeah, I was a two sport athlete. I'm 6'7", fairly athletic for my height. I got drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays out of high school as a pitcher, played baseball and basketball in Louisiana in college. Um, and a lot of, yeah, those stressors of growing up, being the man in quotations, being the athletic stud at your school, getting drafted and having people thinking that means you're heading to the major leagues the next day when that's not really how it happens. There was a lot of pressure on my life and where I was supposed to go with my life and the money I was supposed to make, that I didn't realize how much stress that put on me and how much anxiety and how much the actual amount of fear that I would have on myself for the rest of life, because I failed at becoming a major league athlete. I failed at becoming that sports star that everyone thought I was going to be from age 10 to 22. Um, and that failure stopped me from trying new things and failing more and learning about myself and accepting that failure is a good thing. So that is a big area of my mental health struggles, is dealing with the dealing with what happened in my life prior to with my athletic ability. Um, Going onwards, what you were saying about ways we can stop people, it's a tough thing, I'm gonna say. Um, Obviously, having someone very small like me talk about it is very helpful for other athletes. However, people with a bigger platform, like Kevin Love, Dak Prescott of the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, and other athletes talking about their mental health struggles in the Players Tribune and other news and media outlets is a huge thing. I think it's amazing. It's awesome that they're talking about it, making it as if making it so others at high school and college don't feel the shame of talking about mental health struggles and depression, and it holding them back from making it to a game and holding them back from being the athlete that they think they could be. But I think we obviously need to make it more acceptable at those areas. A star can talk all they want, but we will think they are an athlete. They have millions of dollars. They don't have anything to lose. And no matter how much we're told it's okay to talk about these things, we always think we have something to lose. So it's a good thing we're starting this battle, but it's going to be a long time before it becomes a normal thing to have athletes, I think, going to see therapists and counselors to not only help them in their sport, but to help them as human beings.
And in 2017, your father passed away, and you had a close relationship with your father. Did other family members notice how you were processing your father's death, and what did they do? What is it that family members can do to help make sure that men's mental health is being accounted for and is not an aspect of life that is being ignored?
Chris, to be honest with you, I didn't know I had as close a relationship as my father as I did until these things started happening. He'd been with me my whole life as my coach, then as my chauffeur, then as my biggest fan. And I mean, my whole life, as in he would drive me to 3 practices a day when I was 15 years old. I would go from school to, I think, rugby practice, then rugby practice to baseball practice, and baseball practice to soccer practice. And that was 7 hours of practice. And he still had a full time job and doing everything else he needed to do as a husband and a father to my sister, and still being there for me for everything I needed. So, what really came at that time was me realizing all these things he had done for me. And I wasn't sure I showed him the respect that he needed, and the gratefulness, the gratitude at that time. I know I didn't. And I had wished at the point when he was sick that I had showed him more gratitude when he was feeling better, and I showed him more love and support. We always had good times together, but I just felt like I should have done more, and I wish I did more. So that was one of the things that was really affecting me. And yeah, my parents, my family, my mom, my sister definitely saw it, me grieving. I think I took it the hardest, or at least I showed it outwardly for the world to see the most. But it's interesting, my family, we're not big talkers, even after all this and what I'm doing. And my sister's a radio host, and in our lives, we talk and we do things, but the three of us do not. Um, so they did as much as I would allow them to do. And I didn't allow them to do much. If something we were talking about his funeral, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I left the room, and I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want to, I think, accept that he had passed. But instead of us sitting down having a conversation, we just kind of all went our separate ways. So um, honestly, we are not doing it right. We haven't done it right. I think we all need a group therapy session ourselves. But that's the answer to that one for sure.
So why do you think that dynamic was that something that happened throughout your childhood in terms of people not sharing feelings, and in terms of your relationship with your dad, there was the closeness, you just weren't necessarily appreciative of it or conscious of it at the time. So do you think everyone in the family perhaps has blinders on and is just focused on getting through the day, or what seems to be happening there?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. As a family, like we are, like if you were to look at us from the outside, we are the quote unquote perfect family, a nice area, have money, not wealthy, but have a home, feel good, able to pay the bills, go on vacations, look happy. They're active. They go for walks together. But with that other aspect, I'm not too sure. I never was the one to talk in conversations, and I still don't as much. In group and family outings and whatnot, I just kind of listen and I don't have my voice. I never did growing up. And that is something I'm working on with my therapist, the reasons why. Feeling like I had nothing to say was worthwhile. I think that's a lot of it. Now I do believe I do, but you've set such certain ways and certain standards for 25 years of my life. I just was the person that didn't speak and I didn't say my voice and I just listened. It's hard even in 7 years to change that. It takes time, it takes practice. So that is on my angle. I'm not sure about my mom. I'm not sure about my sister. Like we haven't had that conversation, but it there's definitely some family dynamic from when we were growing up that these things weren't talked about and they're still not. And I personally am curious what the future will hold in that. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it definitely could get better.
Now, well, I before I move on to that, can you discuss the process of feeling healthier after all of these events and how the process inspired you to establish Never Alone?
Yeah, silver linings. There's silver linings, really. If you can take a second and stand back and look at something, there's silver linings to everything. Uh, Look at COVID. It's 2 years of something that none of us thought we'd ever dealt with, but I'm sure every one of your listeners has one thing that is something positive come out of it. They've been able to spend more time alone by themselves and be productive, or they started working out at home and they never worked out before, or they started going to online therapy, or whatever it may be, started a hobby that they never thought they would do, or read more books. Um, my silver lining for the deep depression, anxiety, and fear from my ex, and then also my father dying, was my willingness to accept failure and willingness to feel bad, and my ability now to realize I can pretty much do anything in my life right now, try it, fail, put myself into pressure situations, and I won't feel as bad, most likely, as I did for those 2 years. Like, those are my lows. And if I can make it through those lows, then why can't I try to do something else? Um, because before those lows, for my first 28 years, I was afraid of getting that low. I was afraid of trying things that would put me to that level. I was afraid of tasting that fear and feeling that anxiety inside me because I didn't know how I would react. I didn't know if I could handle it. And I didn't at the time. I couldn't handle it. But the thing is, it was thrown onto me and I had to deal with it and I couldn't get out of the situation. So I thought, why not accept it, learn from it, and grow from here? And don't be afraid if it comes back into your life again, because it most likely will at some point. I will lose someone else close to me. Something will happen in my life while I get into that depression again, because you're always riding that fine line in this mental health world, no matter if you had it before or haven't. So that was it. That was the silver lining to it. And with that new mindset of I can be sad and still talk to people in the world. I can have anxiety and still go on my social media and share it with people and share the lows and share myself trying to get out of the lows and trying to find ways to get back again. And have people reach out to me and saying, thanks for that tip. I appreciate what you're doing. It showed me a new light. It showed me a new way of doing things and kind of taking all the guarded walls I had built up my whole life, trying to look perfect and try and be that athlete and trying to do all these things that people expect me to do and just being me. And being me has a lot of failures. Being me has a lot of downside, but being me will honestly show you every single part of it as I try to make myself better, as I try to grow as a human and try to be personally, just be more someone who I want to be, who I look up to. So that was essentially my basis in the start of Never Alone. And like I said, people reaching out to me, people are talking to me. I'm like, how can I turn this into a bigger community? How can I create something more worthwhile so that perhaps I can make a living off this and I can do this for the rest of my life and just keep growing the community, keep growing the conversation, and then create something that is there after I pass away myself. So that is how and why Never Alone started.
Now, one of the interesting things that I'm trying to reconcile in this conversation is that, I mean, you've done a fair amount of modeling work, and when you model, you are putting yourself out there and presenting yourself for people to make an evaluation, a judgment. So how is it that you were able to do that given all of these lingering feelings?
That's a great question. Um, that is the facade we put up, Chris. Like that is the it's the easiest thing to see on social media. Like only show your highs, only show your vacations, only show when you've got money in your bank, only show your nice cars, only show these things. Um, Most of the modeling and the stuff I did was like not prior to social, but it definitely was in the last 10 years. And to be honest with you, the big focus of my life at that time was the gym, was me investing in my body and my muscles and my physical health. Because at the time, that's all I had that made me feel happy because I wasn't confident enough in my business drive. I wasn't confident enough in my schooling drive. I wasn't confident enough in these other ones to grow mentally and financially and spiritually. But one thing I did have was I knew how to be an athlete. I knew how to work out. I knew how to eat well. And I knew that my body and my look could take me to a place where I wanted to go. So that was my main focus and drive. So I did have all these other things. And to be honest with you, those things drove my physical fitness and my modeling because this was my only safe place, only place that I felt like I could survive in, even though I had all these crutches around me, I could hide in my body. I could hide in my modeling. And that was how I could do it. I feel comfortable out there. Like I feel comfortable like that. To be honest with you, right now, this day and age, I feel comfortable hopping on stage and talking to 200 people about mental health. However, Chris, if you try to get me on a date with a girl I've never met before, that is much more fearful for me than a 200 people interview or on stage.
So in terms of when you did the modeling work and
Mm-hmm.
you got the feedback, w- were you treated a certain way that helped perpetuate your mindset, or what was going on in terms of the reception to your modeling work?
Uh, well, let's go with here. I'm a guy. I'm 36 now. I was like 22 at the time, 24. A little stroking of the ego was never a bad thing. And at that time, that was the only thing I had going for me that I felt like I could use as a platform to grow and use as a place to perhaps turn into something bigger long term. Um, so when I would do modeling and I would get good feedback, I'd be like, okay, you're doing something right. Keep working out, keep doing your stuff, keep trying to get gigs. And so the thing is, like, you get gigs, you get paid, and I could pay the bills, I could do other things. That's what that was. Uh, I don't want to say it was egotistical because it was all I knew. It was the only outlet I had. And I've luckily, a lot of that stuff I've taken and I've like that work ethic in the gym to get there takes a long time to get to that point and to be able to do fitness shoots and do those things. And to be honest with you, that work ethic I had in the gym as a model, but also as a personal trainer, has been my core for my work ethic for my mental health growth. Understanding that it's a day-to-day process. I can't fix something in 24 hours. However, if I set a plan and I do a day-to-day thing where I kind of repeat this over and over for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and there's little tweaks here as I get better, then I can probably find myself in a better mindset and a better place than I was 9 months ago, which is just like the gym. You can't lose 24 pounds in a day. You can't get a six pack. You can't do this. You can't do that in a very short period of time. You need to work at it. And it's the work that's not sexy because people don't see it day to day. So you just have to mentally like, no, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right thing. And here we go. So I'm very grateful for that time. It was a different time, a different aspect I had. I wasn't as mentally strong, that's for sure. But I definitely take a lot away from that time and what I do now with my mental health growth.
I think it's interesting because you had said that for a long time you didn't have confidence and you didn't feel like you had something to say, but really in the modeling work, you were communicating something, that you were a hard worker, you were diligent, and you were dedicated. So maybe it was a silent way of conveying a message.
Definitely. No, you're right. You're 100%. And you're right. I was, but I think it was that. It was silent. It wasn't, I didn't have to speak. I let my work ethic talk for me, and the visual that would came through with it. So I think that was it. It wasn't me being a voice. It was me just being a human, a piece of meat, but also someone could see that I was doing something when they weren't watching to give myself what I needed to grow in that area.
And you discuss MDMA therapy at Never Alone. And
Mm-hmm.
on your website, you have a blog entry on MDMA therapy that says the following, and I'll quote, and it's a lengthy quote, but I think it's important for the audience to this process and think about. It says, quote, when ingested under safe, controlled circumstances by someone who has been given explicit instructions on how much should be taken, MDMA can produce an extremely beneficial effect, such as alleviating symptoms associated with PTSD, anxiety disorders, including social phobia and OCD, and depression. End quote. What exactly constitutes a safe and controlled environment, and how can an everyday person determine whether or not they are in that safe and controlled environment?
Well, Chris, as I've stated on Never Alone, and I hope it's made clear in that blog, I am personally not a professional. I have no medical background. I don't have the schooling background for therapy, nor administering doses of MDMA therapy or anything else. So I need to make that clear. Like I said, I hope it's clear enough in there. What that article was for is to give insight to the lay person who's looking just to learn a bit more about it before they go talk to the therapist. So with what your quote was saying is, I would hope someone would take from that is, it's not for you to take your own MDMA pill tonight, which you have because you go party or do whatever, you use it in your own substance. Instead, it is for you to work with a therapist, someone who has been trained in the area, and they know how much for it is for them to take, for you to take through their practice and through them going to school and through them working with the government as MDMA therapy is being worked on to become legal, hopefully in 2022. So I can't say how much it is. I know how much I took that my therapist who has practiced and has done their own therapy themselves, they gave me, but I don't want to be telling anyone how much they should be going with because that is the work of the therapist and them for their guided journey.
And that is tied into my next question is, how is it that practitioners can become trained professionals in terms of the administration of MDMA therapy?
That's a great question. I would like to know that also. So, as I said, it is, be honest with you, in North America, it is illegal at this time. There was just a ruling, I believe, in the last 2 to 3 weeks where MAPS, who is leading the psychedelic therapy movement throughout North America, trying to get these illegal drugs as an MDMA and also psilocybin and mushrooms to be not in the same legal area they are as a class one, I believe. And through that, once that goes through and they're allowed to start teaching and doing more scientific work and going through this, I believe then therapists will be able to apply, to learn, probably try it themselves so they can understand it better, and then hopefully work with people that are just like me dealing with life stresses. Because I do know the one MDMA therapy session I did was essential in who I am today and how I was able to deal with my mental health struggles.
And I encourage everyone to go to weareneveralone.co because you do provide a pretty detailed description of your MDMA therapy experience. One of the things that stood out to me is that as someone who is based in Canada, how can this be applied in the U.S. context? Because in the U.S. context, our healthcare system is incredibly complicated,
Yeah.
and it can potentially involve multiple medical specialists engaging with the patient and making that determination about appropriate implementation. So, my question really at the heart of it is some critics will say realistically, many US citizens will not have the time or resources for this kind of therapy. What would your response be to that?
My response is it's a tough one. What's your life worth to you? Really, that's it's kind of hard to say. Some people might roll their eyes at me, but Chris, to be honest, the therapy session, MDMA therapy session, cost me $3,000 that I took out of my own pocket. I took out of my line of credit while I was already in $50,000 of debt, and I was like, this is going to help me understand who I am better. And if I understand who I am better, I can then address these situations which are stopping me from working, which are stopping me from growing as a human and stopping me from grieving all the time. Most likely, if that happens, then I will be able to go back to work. I'll be able to work harder, work smarter, and find new areas to make money. And that was my thought process on doing this MDMA therapy and paying for it myself and taking the time of my own day to go in and do that. I was like, this is an investment in my future. If I can invest in a gym membership or a car or all these other things that make me be a better person and human, why can't I invest in my own health and my brain? So it's tough. I understand that I don't want to tell anyone what to do with their money, but I looked at all these things as an investment in me as a human. And that was $3,000 while I was already in debt, and I still am. Is I would do it over and over again, and I would pay double that if I had to.
Now, in terms of your work with Never Alone, you've been keeping track of what the Food and Drug Administration has been doing with respect to trials of MDMA therapy. What are some of the hurdles that you have noticed, and what do you predict for the future in terms of getting this form of therapy implemented in the U.S.? You had mentioned hopefully approval in 2022, but what might be an obstacle to that?
I will be honest with you. I'm not the perfect person to talk about this. I don't look at it enough daily and weekly to really have my pulse, my finger on the pulse. But I am gonna say it's personally, it's big money. It's I think if these pharmaceutical companies feel like they can get themselves into the MDMA area and making it so that their product is used, I'm that kind of guy. I think they have their finger on the government pulse. Another thing is, which might be a little outsider perspective, the problem with a lot of businesses and money is the thing is if we make something to heal someone completely, then they're not going to be keep using our drugs and then keep using our pills to keep them a medium for the next 10, 20 years and being consistently giving us their dollars and their healthcare money. So if this drug is really that helpful and it's great, then we're gonna be losing customers. Um, I don't get me wrong. I haven't heard anyone say that. I haven't seen that written anywhere. That's just how I kind of look at things. So I'm not too sure what's going to happen. I hope it's going to work. I know how helpful it was for me. Um, I know the people who really do understand a lot better than me are working their asses off to get this done. And MAPS has been trying since the 70s, I believe, to make the changes in the world. So those are the people I think that really should have a voice in this time. I just want to be that guy just to make that little connection to someone. Give them that, give them kind of a reassurance. Give them somewhere they can learn about someone else who did it, who's just like them. And then once they kind of, if they agree with what I did or didn't agree, then they can reach out to professionals. But if I can be that happy medium, that place in the middle where it's like a Joe Schmo did this, I want to read what he did and then decide from there, then I think I've done my part.
Now, there has been some early work that indicates MDMA therapy supports increased sociability, extroversion,
Mhm.
and interpersonal trust. Now, like you've said, I mean, you are not a licensed professional, but from your perspective, why might these things be key ingredients to mental health? And is there a chance that this therapy isn't going to work with people that have specific personality traits that make them want to keep alone to themselves, or not necessarily have much trust in other people?
I think with everything, there's not one size fits all. So no matter what we do in the world, there are going to be people that something doesn't work for, or there are going to be people that try it that they just don't like it. Even if it does work for them, it's just not comfortable. It's not how they want to do it. So right off the bat, that's going to happen for sure. It's not going to heal everyone. It's not going to make everyone feel the way it makes me feel. There's 6 billion plus people in the world. There's no way everyone's going to agree with my mindset on this one thing. But for the actual area of it being a positive thing for, like you said at the beginning, is like it is. I don't know if you've taken the drug before. See, I took it before as a party drug, and I enjoyed my time in it when I was younger. And it MDMA especially is something where it's more social. I don't like crowds at times, and I don't like lineups. But when I was out, it was a lot easier to talk to my friends, talk to girls, talk about things in my life that I wouldn't talk about before, like relationships and stresses in my life. And that's the exact same thing happened during my MDMA therapy session. I was able to talk about all these things where I would have, if I was just in a normal state of mind, I would have put a wall up. I would have hid the part that ashamed me, and I would have given them some sort of angle, which this made me feel safe and comfortable. But it didn't really touch on that topic that I needed to talk about. And that's what MDMA does. It kind of shifts that barrier, it shifts that wall. So it's a bit more permeable, and you can get those thoughts across without feeling shame, without feeling afraid, without feeling like the other person is going to judge you. It's quite relieving. It's a big weight off your chest while you're doing it. And I can be honest with you, it's hard to do sometimes when you're not in that same mindset, when you don't have the drug in you. Not saying I've done it a lot. The MDMA therapy session was 3 or 4 years ago, but I definitely still remember the feeling of how easy it is to have those conversations that would be awkward and hard and probably held in for 20 years when you weren't doing something like that.
And certainly, when thinking about MDMA therapy, uh, something that sprung to mind was that a person with heart problems might be concerned that their heart rate and blood pressure is going to increase, or that with MDMA usage, there's an increase in trustness and closeness, and there's a potential chance of people engaging in risky sexual behaviors that they wouldn't necessarily do otherwise. So, what are some ways that you think culturally can help remove the potential stigma tied to MDMA therapy and the potential fear of some of these side effects that can take place?
That's a tough one because you could be right. You could. I don't know. The thing is, we don't have enough studies done on these drugs because they are illegal, and people aren't able to do them well, under scientific, under government law, right? So we haven't done enough of that. To go and have that conversation, I think you would have to head to a party and talk to the people who have taken it as recreational doses and go ask them those questions. Um, I, I can't give an answer to that one. I think it just we need time. Like anything else new that is going to be out there for the public, or might be, or just new to anyone's general area. We need time to understand how it works with more people, get more subjects on it, more test subjects, and see how they react and see how they feel. And then once that happens, it's just we have to allow them to be comfortable, like I am at the moment, and talking about it to people and talking about it on media and news and getting it out there so people can hear more about it and they can decide for themselves if it's something that they want. Right now, it's a like you can probably tell, like there's not a lot of stuff out there online. There's not a lot of stuff. There's not a lot of people talking about it. So We just need to let it breathe more. We need more people to partake, to think about it, and then to have open and honest conversations about their time.
What do you feel are some potential avenues to help prevent the proliferation of MDMA self treatment? Because potentially people are
Yeah.
making the substance on their own and they're including dangerous additives, and the potential consequences are very scary.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, I'm not in that area. I don't know, Chris. I don't know. Thing is, people are making, well, we get alcohol made for us because it is legal. And so we have distilleries, we have people that bottle it and they go through the process that the government says they should do to make it and go through. And we have so much made that there's really no people making illegal booze that much that I know of personally up here in Vancouver in Canada. I don't know about you. So that would be, I believe in the past when people started making alcohol, there'd be moonshine and there'd be all these things, and there would be um, side effects of that due to the high power and potency and whatnot. So, going on those basics, I believe it needs to, if it were to become legal, then we have to have enough sources making the product that people can easily get a hold of it, or therapists can get a hold of it, and make sure that you have enough out there for the general public to have and feel safe and they feel it's like it's the same potency as it would be otherwise. Um, that would be my non-professional thoughts on that question.
How do you think the last 2 years with the pandemic has changed perspectives about mental health care in general?
Talked about silver linings. Yeah, this is a silver lining. 100%. It is more out there in the open. It's on Twitter. It's on Facebook. It's on the news nightly, talking about mental health and COVID. Um, it's not the great conversations that we want to have because they're always sad. People are down. People are stressed, and it's totally understandable. But it is making it a common thing to come off our tongue and our lips in a conversation, which I think will help in the long term as we get through this and we get through this pandemic and find a new way of life. People won't be so ashamed to talk about the subject, mental health, and then that will grow from there. And it won't be so much a stigma against the negative side and stress, anxiety, but also how to grow your mental health, how to stabilize it, how to work on it, and how to succeed and feel better. So I think it's a definite silver lining. It's an amazing thing. And I hope we can help it grow and change, because the thing is, at the moment and with the past, like I think it's in a weird place. It's in one that isn't really helping a lot of people. It's putting everyone in a group together so they feel like they're not alone. But I don't see a lot of people trying to help push someone out of it, doing their thing. Advocates groups are giving information to make you feel like you're not the only person struggling. But I'd love to see more people giving out actual helpful tips, helpful things to give people, say, you know what, you can fight this, you can get out of it, you can go work out, you can eat healthy, you can sleep better. And you know what, in 6 months, you'll be a different person.
Now, on your Twitter, which is at the handle Hi Tall Paul, Paul's mentioned he's 6'7", has been confused for Andre the Giant, and is going to be trying out for WWE in 2022. No, but the tweet says, quote, reminder, the more you fail in your mental health journey, the easier it is to move on with your new views on how to succeed next time. Push your comfort bubble, get anxious, feel down, fail. In terms of advice for people, because fear of failure, and it's something you've mentioned in this interview, but it is a persistent thing that a lot of people struggle with. How can people get in the mindset to embrace failure and not be afraid of it?
Chris, I'm glad you saw that tweet and I'm glad you liked it. I thought that one had some value to it. So I really appreciate you saying that. It is, that's a tough, it is tough because when you fail, it's down. Like, it's not a good feeling to fail. No matter what you fail at, it is not a good feeling, no matter how big or small. it leaves that either sour taste in your mouth or leaves you in a depressed state for a few, maybe minutes, hours, days, and a feeling of I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve. But the thing is, if we don't fail, if we don't try something, if we don't do these things to kind of step into a new area and fail, how can we learn? How can we adapt? And then how can we notice what we did, adapt from it, understand what we might want to do the next time, and then try that out and to see if that worked better than the last time we tried it. Um, and that comes from just I think just being more honest with yourself and who you are, not trying to show the world you are perfect and you have everything going for you. That was one thing for me. I had a fear of failure growing up because I was always trying to be perfect and show the world I was this He-Man, this WW star, whatever you're saying, this athlete. And that, you're right though, but that was part of probably my modeling and all that stuff. That was just that wall, like make myself look more perfect, more stuff, because when I do fail, I want to hide it with this look of myself. And I think that was what I was doing. So don't get me wrong, it took me 27 years to figure this out. And the only reason why haven't figured it out, but I'm much better at it, is because I had the roughest 3 years of my life, and it's something that I wouldn't wish on anyone. But the silver lining is, it kind of put that crack in my exterior, and it showed me I don't have to be perfect, and I don't have to be winning all the time. Um, what I would say to someone is, if you're having a hard time to doing this, just you will fail most likely in the next days, weeks, or months. Like it will happen for everyone in one way, like either a failure as in you forget to sign up to a course or a class or something you wanted in time and you just didn't, like that's a small one, but it's still a failure. Like you missed out on opportunity. Or something like you try to ask someone out for a date and they deny you, you go for a job interview and they don't take you. So if something like that does happen, yeah, you're going to feel bad, and that's okay. You're allowed to go ahead, eat that bucket of ice cream, go ahead, and if you need to have that drink, go ahead and go for that walk by yourself and kind of kick yourself a little bit for not getting it. But once you're done that, stop and think, okay, why didn't I get this? Is there something I could have done better? But also at the time think, okay, this is the feeling of me failing. Is the world collapsing around me? Am I completely losing everything in my life and all my money is gone? Um, did these things happen and everything stop and like the world is just gone? No, like you're still there. Everything's going. You still have your friends. You still have your family. You still have your money. You still have everything. Well, the fear of failing isn't really going to stop you, is it? Like you're just ready to go on the next day. So the more you do that, the more you get comfortable with that fear, the easier it is. So you start looking for ways to fail, looking for ways to try new things. Once you understand that, keep trying, keep failing. So it just becomes a comfortable thing. Like there's no problem with you. Like, I'm going to go try this today. I might not get it, but you know what? It's going to teach me that I can try again tomorrow. It's going to teach me that I can try again tomorrow. And I can keep failing every day, but I can still end up having a very positive day. By the time I go to bed, I'm happy with what I tried and what I achieved and what I failed at. And tomorrow, I'm just going to make it one step better.
And one of the other things I noticed on your Twitter is that you seem to be a pretty voracious reader of books. And it's a two-pronged question given what you've said. At first, I wanted to ask, how might reading be conducive to maintaining your personal mental health, and what recent books stand out?
So really, reading for me at this time is my kind of my mental getaway. I use it two ways. If I'm really doing really good, growing, never loans, everything's positive, I use reading at night as my way to get away from the computer, to get away from my phone, and to kind of dive into a world that isn't mine. I read like Jack Reacher, Tom Clancy are kind of my favorite novels at the time because it's really just a way for me to get away and to enjoy a story that makes me think, makes me laugh, and I get to know the characters well. The second way I use reading is actually when I am having a down day, and feeling mentally just like not there, a little bit of stress, anxiety, something isn't right, and things are just not what I want them to be. I'll read. Instead of watching TV, instead of eating a bucket of ice cream, I'll go and I'll read. And that will kind of help take my mind off those sorrows and the sad feelings. And that will be like an hour of me just like mentally getting out of my own head and getting out of this funk I'm in and reading through it. Now, when I'm done reading, I might still be in that funk, but at least I had an hour kind of holiday away from that funk. And that's how I use reading at the moment. Obviously, though, let's be honest, learning new things. If you're not reading like the Jack Reacher, if I'm reading a history book or biography, or learning how to grow as a human, or how to do SEO better for my website, like there's no problem with learning new things and growing um, your toolbox, let's say.
And the second prong, the other component, given what you've said, is that reading, it is more of a passive activity. And you had mentioned that, well, you felt like you didn't have much to say yourself. Do you think that reading is also potentially a security blanket? It's perhaps going back to what you are comfortable with, and you're not pressured into having to say something. You are escaping, you are going into that other world. Because, I mean, maybe for the future, there's a Paul Marlowe SEO optimization book that you can be writing, that you do have something to say. So what I'm getting at is, do you feel that the books are potentially perpetuating behaviors that you've been doing for a lot of your life in terms of being passive and not expressing yourself?
Chris, I didn't know I was gonna have to pay for a therapy session through this podcast. Are you gonna give me invoice after this thing? Is this what's happening here? Because
Yeah,
you're doing a good job. This
it's
is this is just like a therapy
it's
session.
$250.
But you know what? These days, yeah, that's an investment I'll take. Yeah, man, you're not wrong. I think you definitely have an angle on that one. That in the back of my head, that I've never actually like taken time to look at introspectively by myself. Yeah, that probably is part of a thing. I I'd be lying if I hadn't thought I'm gonna write a book at some point and have it out there. Like I do. Here we go. I am yeah, like I am that tall guy. I'm 6'7". I do some modeling. I was an athlete. I kind of failed an athlete. I do want to be a figure. That is kind of neuro deep inside of me, and I want to be a figure. I want to find my way to do these things to lead and be seen and help people. Helping people more has come over in the last 3 years with the mental health. Like I realize I can be a figure and I can give value. Back in the past, I want to be a figure. I want to be like because of sports, and they'd be like, "Yes, you've done well. Congratulations." Right now, like if I can be a figure, that means I can have hundreds of thousands of people, like hopefully helping themselves get better mentally and physically, and inspire them, which is even greater for me. But no, deep down, that is part of these things, egotistic, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I'd like to be seen. So, you know what? A book might be part of that journey for me to get where I need to go to be mentally happy, or at least mentally checking in on why I need to be seen so much. But also at the same time, if it can be something that I can give value to the world and leave a lasting thing here that someone can read in 60 years and be like, who the hell was this tall Paul guy? And why was he on this podcast and he's getting therapy advice that really started his book show by Chris, then that's a cool thing too.
Now, what is the future of Never Alone? What is on the roadmap? What do you think is the end goal?
Well, honestly, the roadmap keeps changing because I've never done this before. I'm running this by myself and I'm just picking pieces here and there as something clicks, something doesn't click, and then I just adapt and go. So I'm really happy where it's at right now and what I've done to create this thing because I've never done this before. But Angle, do you know Gymshark? Have you heard of them? The fitness.
Gymshark, yeah, Gym.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that mental health should be in the same conversation as physical health and eating health. I don't know why it's in a different topic and it's looked at and spoken in a different way. But I really want to be the Gymshark of mental health, the community, the group, the open conversations, the also really great branding that they have, like a business that understands what people want on TikTok, that understands what people want on Instagram and the new social media platform. So we can reach more kids in their 12, 18, 22, 25, but also reach people who aren't feeling like they're dealing with mental health struggles, but they just are around because they like the brand, they like the conversation, they like the content, and they like the people working on it. For maybe one day when they do feel like they are struggling, they're like, I'm glad I'm following Never Alone because I was here for this, but I'm actually going to go read up on, how to talk to a therapist, or what do I need to do to sign up my first therapy session. So, yeah, that's my focus for Never Alone. That's my end goal.
So, do you think that expanding the social media presence of Never Alone will be important for the future? Because
Huge.
I think I had read that you had deleted Instagram on your phone,
I
so
got hacked.
you might have another. Oh, okay.
No, no, but I also, so yeah, no, social media is huge. It has happened. As I said, I am kind of the only one doing this. So like I said, came up with the site. I have a developer that helps me build it. I have a writer that helps me write, but essentially every move I'm making on what to make for the site, the SEO side of it, the PR after, hopefully getting organically ranked, takes up a lot of my time. So that's like one major area. When I do get some inflow from it, some money, the idea is to hire someone or pull someone onto my team that understands social media, understands what people are looking for and searching for and trending. And then they can, spend the time that is needed each day to post and to engage, interact. I just don't have the time and the bandwidth to do it right now, but it is 100% needed. Like, having a website is great and will last long term. I think it's a safe start. It's a good concrete base for me to grow from. But let's be honest, phones these days, people are looking 24/7 social media. If I really want to make a change, I want to help people. I don't want to give them stuff that relates to them. It has to be through a TikTok reel. It has to be through a meme or some sort of viral photo that connects with them emotionally and physically.
We're talking with Paul Marlowe. To learn more about the mental health advocacy of Never Alone, go to weareneveralone.co. Give him some love. He needs the backlinks. He likes the backlinks. I've seen him talking about it. It's important to him.
It's
And
a
I really,
business.
yes, exactly. And it's an important business because mental health is a serious thing. And I really appreciate your work in the area.
Chris, thank you so much. I'm sorry to scare you with that perhaps a 30-minute conversation. I'm glad we did this hour. So thanks for sticking with me.
And Great A Nation, definitely check out Never Alone's website. Paul, thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Chris. Have a great day.
Take care.